I'm Miwa Messer. I'm the producer and host of Poured Over, and I've known Aja Gabel now since 2018.
Yeah.
2018. The Ensemble was a Discover Great New Writers pick back in the day, and I love this book. I know nothing about classical music except for what I've learned from Asia, who we're going to come back to the cello. But I love this book. It's a novel about ambition and friendship and creativity and music. And again, I have not a musical bone in my body. I can play the radio. I do not sing along to things because dogs will weep. But I love the ensemble. I love this book so much. And if you haven't read it, go back and read it. However, she's followed it up with a new novel that is surprising in a million great ways, also about ambition and creativity and love and
Yeah.
jealousy and all of the good stuff. But the backdrop's a little different. And I'm going to ask you to set it up because I love this book. I love the Lightbreakers so, so much. And I've loved it actually since you told me that you were kind of doing this slightly different thing.
Yeah.
But I am going to ask you to set it up because it's such a great idea.
Yeah. It's about a couple
Hmm.
who is married and who the husband is a physicist and he gets involved in a shady billionaire's time travel
Uh-huh.
scheme. And
Love this.
this sort of puts pressure on this marriage
Hmm.
by delivering this man to his past in a way that neither of them could have predicted. And that kind of drives the wife away, who is an artist, back to her home in Tokyo, to her family, and to a past lover of her own. So, and it's kind of about how and if they find their way back to each other.
I love everything about I love the setting. I love the fact that we go from California to Marfa, Texas,
Oh
which
yeah.
I always think of Marfa as an art town more than
Yeah.
anything. But of course, a billionaire who's doing something shady with time travel gets
Yeah.
set up in Marfa. And I love Maya. I think Noah's pretty great. I think he's pretty great.
Okay, the early feedback I've gotten is
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh my God, I hate Noah. Like, love to hate him, but hate him." And I was like so surprised by that, but I very much enjoy it.
Yeah, I
I
don't.
like a strong reaction.
Yeah, no, no. A strong reaction I always appreciate. But
Yeah.
honestly, I feel a little bit of pity for him.
Yeah.
And obviously, you and I are not going to go into this is airing right as the book is pubbing. We are not going to give up spoilers, but I have to say, I didn't quite know what to expect at first from Noah. I think he's very well intentioned. I think he just doesn't know how to get out of his own way sometimes.
Yeah, I think that it's not a spoiler to, I mean, it says it on the jacket
Hmm.
copy that he had a previous marriage and he had a
Right,
child that died in that marriage, and that
right,
marriage then ended in divorce.
right.
And I think what I was interested in with the character of Noah, because we also are in the perspective of his ex-wife as
Yeah.
well as his current wife.
Hmm.
So there are three different perspectives here. But I was interested in the character of Noah as this person who, um, there's so many ways to deal with grief in your life.
Right.
And I think Noah is a person who stopped at that moment of
Yep.
grief and then doesn't know how to like define himself or evolve or live. Even though one must live after grief,
Right.
he's this kind of person who hasn't really um incorporated that grief into his life. But his ex-wife, I think, kind of has.
Yeah.
And both of them have like pros and cons. And so I we get to see both of them. But I think that does make him like a sort of frustrating character because you're like,
Yeah.
dude, you have a life. Like you need to go to therapy. But,
I got really attached to Maya, who is his current wife, and I was
yeah.
pleasantly surprised quite a lot by Eileen, his previous wife.
Yeah.
I love the interplay between the three of them, and I do think that Maya's got a little bit of a raised eyebrow when it comes to her predecessor, and
Yeah.
but not in a way that's like creepy or weird or untoward, right? Like they're just kind of like, who is everything and what came before me? And it's a
Yeah.
way I quite enjoyed sort of swimming around in all of their emotions, even when Noah's trying to tamp down all of his emotions. It's like, dude, come on. I like, what are you, Bostonian in exile or something? We understand that you're having feelings. You may pretend that you're not, but we know. But swimming around in all of this with these particular people, I knew, having read the ensemble, I knew I was going to get layers between the characters, right? Like I had a vague idea of what was coming. I knew, and you had told me the setup, and I was like, okay, it's you. I'm gonna follow you anywhere. Um, but when did you start working on this? Because it feels like a little bit of a connection to Little Fish, which is a story you
Mhm,
wrote in grad school that became a film actually in
mhm,
2021. And if you
mhm.
haven't gone, you can rent video on demand. People
Yeah.
go see this film. It's great. But I feel like you may have started this book sooner than I thought.
Yeah, I went back and looked at like the earliest version
Hmm.
of the document on
Yeah.
my computer, and it was 2016,
Oh wow.
which
Okay.
isn't before, it's before the Ensemble published. It
Right.
had sold the Ensemble,
Okay.
and Little Fish had just been optioned for film, and I was like, well, that story that I wrote on like a whim that I definitely don't write in that genre of
Right.
literary sci-fi or speculative fiction.
Right.
And uh and I was at the same time reading a couple different things happen. I was reading Ted Chiang,
Yeah.
um, Exhalations,
Hmm.
and also which came out, sorry, later, but the first
Yeah.
one, The Story of Your Life,
Yeah.
and was kind of floored by what he could do with a scientific what if
Yeah. Yeah.
and then kind of spin out from there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're very different writers, but I admire his brain so much. And I really think of that as like the grandfather of this book. And then I am a really big fan of this movie that like nobody has seen called Another Earth by
Okay.
Britt Marling. She wrote it and started it, and I can't remember if she directed it.
Okay.
But it is, as you know, sort of a literary sci-fi um, movie. Like, and it has another speculative what if, but it really is about character, regret, grief, and time. And once I sort of had all those things come together, that I was like, oh, there's a like I have permission to go in this area. I This book kind of just the story kind of just
Hmm.
unfolded.
Okay.
And yeah, so I mean, I know it's an interest of yours too, sort of. um well, is it an interest of yours?
It
I feel like
is.
we
I
share
mean,
that interest.
I like watching people play with genre. I like the
Yeah,
idea that you can have all of the things, right? Like
yeah,
you can have genre fiction with great sentences, right? You can have
yeah.
genre fiction with great characters. I get cranky if I'm reading something and the sentences are not great. Like I read for
Yeah,
language first,
totally, totally.
and if I don't have the language, I get knocked out of the story really quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't like to get knocked out of stories. I also don't need characters that I like per
Mhm.
se. I need to be curious about where things are going, and I need to be curious about the people.
Yeah.
And the world that you build in Lightbreakers is so grounded in the familiar, and I mean, it's little details like the architecture of a house or the setup of a kitchen or just like Maya takes a job in the development office of a museum and it's not her favorite thing, but she's thinking
Hmm.
about the art that she's made and what she wants to do. Noah's lost in his grief, but also like he's trying to make friends after the grief, and no, that's not going well. And Eileen has this career and this new dude, and poor new dude, poor Prem.
Yeah.
He seems like a really well-intentioned dude and he's fully unprepared. But all of these elements, right? Like I've got pieces that I can hold on to, but then you give me time travel. And because I have the other pieces and because I'm so grounded in the characters and their lives,
Yeah.
I totally bought in. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, bring it. And we have
Oh,
lots of
good.
folks who've been reading the book in the office, and everyone's running around going, yeah, I like this version of time travel. I would
Yeah.
like this version of time travel. And
Yeah.
we're not necessarily a time travel bunch, those of us who are running around going, you
Right.
guys. But again, it comes back to the language, it comes back to the characters, it comes back to the
Yeah.
atmosphere. I mean, when you drop us into Tokyo, I love
Yeah.
the fact that Maya takes a moment and she's like, I'm going to step out of this. I'm going to go see my parents, and her parents are complicated, and the ex is like everything's complicated. But I'm like, yeah, I can kind of smell this version of Tokyo.
Yeah.
Like, I
Well,
understand
yeah.
exactly where you've dropped us in terms of like what these parts of town look like. And
Yeah.
even if it's not an actual place per se, but like
Yeah.
the feeling of Tokyo, I'm like, oh yeah. So can we talk about research for a second? Because I mean, Marfa and Tokyo, and I
Mm.
mean, Los Angeles is Los Angeles, but can we talk about the other parts?
Yeah, I um these two places both feel like time traveling when you're there in some way.
Yeah.
Um and when I have you been to Marfa?
I haven't. I've been dying to
You have
go,
to
and
go. You
yeah,
have
I
to
do.
go.
No, I really do. I really do.
It's it is so defiantly itself, and all kinds of people live there, and I put, say this in the book, like weird artists live there.
Yeah.
People who are trying to um, solidify theories about aliens live there. Old rancher families live there. Longtime Latinx families, Border Patrol agent. Like it's a huge hodgepodge of weird West Texas people.
Hmm.
Um, but it but what I think all the what is at the center of all of that is that it feels like this place where anything could happen. It has that
Yeah.
kind of old westness about it, but with the new art mentality.
Hmm.
So it sort of feels like this place where anything could happen,
Hmm.
and the horizon is so vast. And I think that was what was really fascinating to me when I went there. And then when I went to I've been to Tokyo a few times, and you and I have discussed this,
Right.
and it's such an interest the first time I went there, it was such a weird
Hmm.
diasporic feeling
Yeah.
to go to this place where, oh, I've never been around this many people who I kind of look like,
Yeah.
but also like I'm so alien to them.
Yeah.
Like there is a fascination with Hapa and half
Hmm.
Japanese and
Yeah.
half Fu, and um so it's such an interesting combo of being from a place and not from a place that that feels a little bit outside of time and space. And that was what I was trying to get at with Maya going back to this place where she
Hmm.
grew up, where she did not no longer lives and
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
quite have a connection to, but it turns out maybe she does. And yeah, and that's what I was trying to do there. While Noah thinks that he can like go to this blank space of Marfa and like reinvent himself. They're both kind of finding out that like their identities are wrapped up in like who they have been and who they want to be. Mm, yeah.
But displacement is so. I mean, every novel I've really, really loved is ultimately always about displacement
Mm,
and figuring out sort of what the universal essential truth of a human is. And
right.
like you can do it on a boat. Like, I mean, hi Moby Dick, anyone. Like,
Yeah.
and none of this is new, but in terms of literary tropes or anything like that. But when you get a story, right, like you've been working on this for more than a minute, but I
Yeah.
also feel like there were points where there was not insignificant rewriting that got done. Like
Oh,
there was
for
some
sure.
stuff that you took out and put back and all of that kind of thing.
For
But the
sure.
balance between what's possible and what Maya and Eileen and Noah are sort of wrestling with, right? And I'm sort of
Hmm.
sticking to the three of them because I like the sort of I like the interplay between the three of them. I really like Eileen's sort of very matter of factness, where she's like, "Listen, what is going on with you people?"
Yeah.
She's more grown up than anyone else,
Hmm.
um, but
Totally.
at the same time, like she's displaced. Like everyone's displaced. Everyone's
Yeah.
displaced, and everyone thinks they've figured it out. And I'm like, well, actually,
Grief can do that to you like no other, can make
yeah.
you like think that you are completely unmoored and um belong to nothing except your own grief. And I think they all kind of deal with that in different ways. Like Eileen's solution, Noah's ex-wife's solution is to like literally to
Yeah.
leave the place and to go pack it away and move on with her life. Like that is the only way that she can survive. Noah does not know how to do that. I always think of them as as these three characters as like existing on a spectrum of man of faith versus man of science, like
Okay.
that sort of trope from a lot of science fiction has that.
Hmm.
Like the first place I ever heard it was Lost, but it's an old trope.
Hmm.
That the way that you understand the world is through like logical processes,
Right.
and then there's people who understand the world through like faith and hope and things that they cannot see. And I think art kind of exists closer to that. Science exists closer to the other one, but they both kind of come to each other's side.
Right.
Um, I think throughout the book, but yeah, I mean, displacement, I think, is another way of describing that too.
But also, faith displaces fear, fear displaces faith, right?
Hmm.
Like, we don't necessarily, even outside of fiction, we don't necessarily talk about faith in a way that hasn't been co-opted. I mean, it is possible to have faith without having it become a deeply religious experience. And I think the
Yeah.
faith that you and I are talking about is not
Yes.
necessarily a deeply religious experience.
No.
And I feel like nuance is something that, we could bring back into conversation a little more. So I
Yeah.
just kind of want to be
Yes.
clear that
Oh,
when
of
I when I
course.
when I'm using faith in this context, it's faith in the universe, your relationships, your own point of view. It's not a conversion kind of experience.
Yeah. Well, I think when I first started to understand that that was what I was writing about
Hmm.
was when Maya was talking about art and her
Yeah.
art.
Yep.
Because I think like understanding, engaging with, and creating art, especially visual art, I
Yep.
think is sort of an act. It's not, maybe faith isn't what I would call it, but like a tapping into something that is not tangible. Like
Right.
if you could have described it in words, you would have, but you
Yeah.
can't. So here's a piece of art that like you're going to look at and hopefully feel this weird vibration of a thing that I was trying to communicate when I made it. And I think that's like what Maya is always trying to describe to Noah in the book, and he's like, I don't understand how you
Yeah.
do that with art. And then at a certain point in the book he does. But and I think what he comes to understand is that what he thinks science is not
Hmm.
that. And then I think at a certain point he comes to understand, oh, maybe it is like these fringe parts of physics, of quantum physics, of things that we can kind of describe but also can't quite understand
Hmm.
is also like a tapping into a thing that you just to understand it, you have to believe it, and like and you maybe can't explain it. So that's what I mean by faith and hope. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I also think there's a little bit of Frankenstein hovering in the background. I mean, how can you
Interesting.
have a story write about what it truly means to be human
Mm-hmm.
without having a little bit, and let me be clear, no one in this book is a monster, right? Like no one's a monster. But I like the idea though of, what is like, are our memories the things that make us human? Like how do we hold on to the thing that we believe is the center of our identity? And I think that's something that you can wrestle with at any age or any, class. It's one of those transcendent things where you're like, well, if you are remotely self-aware,
Yeah.
it is like, what's the thing that makes you you, right? Is it the
Yeah.
package? Is it the belief system? Is it like, how do you function as a human in the world?
Yeah. Like, is it your past? Like, is it your
Hmm.
past? Is that all you are? Is this collection of things that have happened to you or
Right.
damaged you? And I think also what I was concerned with regarding that question
Hmm.
is how do you love somebody
Right.
who you can't ever fully know? Which like, also is not a new idea or a new question, but is something that I think in adulthood is can be kind of troubling as the older people get and the more past they have and the less you are part of that past, the more it's hard to understand how to like how can I fully know this person that I
Mm.
want to love. Um, but of course, I think it requires understanding that there's a part of you that they can never fully know, which is can be devastating, I think, but it can also be like really cool.
I think, when you talk about how much of our past is us, right? And how
Hmm.
much of that impact of the past is us. And watching Maya navigate her jealousy of Eileen
Hmm.
and also her love of her husband, but also her queries about whether or not he is the saner person in the room,
Hmm.
which are
Hmm.
all legit concerns. But in some ways, it's watching Maya go through almost a second adolescence,
Yeah.
right? Because she is unmoored, absolutely unmoored. And I love the idea that you sent everyone to Marfa because I was like, it makes perfect sense. Landscape wise, West Texas and parts of like the California desert,
Yeah.
not that dissimilar, but the people are different. They
Yeah.
don't have a network. They don't have, and I had a moment. There's a character who stays behind in California who's texting Maya at one point, and I was like, "Are we
Hmm.
going to see more of her? What is
Hmm.
happening?" But like life happens, and so you're not. And she has small children and all this other stuff, so she sort of goes off and does her thing. But I love the idea that Maya and Noah are so isolated.
Yeah.
They're so it's like being not in a bad bubble, but like the idea that they are just stuck with each other and stuck with themselves. And the question is what happens because they have all of these theories, right?
Yeah.
Between the art and the science. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
kids, figure it out. And
That's
that's the
good.
fun.
Yeah, that's really good to hear because there were sort of versions where I was writing and thinking, oh God, I need more people in this book. Um, More people need to interact with these characters
Mm-mm.
um and I think I came to ultimately like the point was here that they are isolated and they have to like re-enter the world, but before they do that, they have to like figure out who they are. Um that said, I like love books that have these sprawling cast of characters. I just finished Heart the Lover, which has
Oh, so good.
so good.
So good.
So good. I don't know how she does it, but it has this like there's so many people in the
Hmm.
book. There's like this ensemble of people
Hmm.
that I really enjoyed. And that I think is also really hard to do,
Yeah.
to not confuse your reader. So I
But
like those.
also, we're talking about a novel that's roughly the length of Lightbreaker. I mean, Heart the Lover is not particularly long, and I do believe you can do an epic novel, like also
Yeah.
Loneliness of Sunny and Sonia and Sunny, the Kiran Desai,
Oh, I gotta read
spectacular,
that.
but reads really quickly, and it's
Yeah.
600 plus pages, and you would never know it.
Yeah.
Short chapters, big cast, definitely an epic. But I mean, Lily King writes epics too. They're just they
How
come
does
in at
she
300
do it?
pages.
How does she do it? I
I
gotta figure it out next time. Next time I'll figure it out.
Well, part of me is wondering though, I mean, you've also written screenplays, you've written for
Hmm.
streamers, you've done lots of different um, adaptations and whatnot, but the interiority that you can capture in a novel, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the fun of reading a novel. I'm going to
Yeah.
assume that's a big chunk of the fun of writing a novel is being able to
Yeah.
sit with that interiority. But I mean, do you miss it when you're working for the screen? Because I mean, obviously, when you're writing a screenplay, everything changes, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to hand the interiority over to set designers and actors and directors and
Yeah.
everything else. You literally have words moving action forward.
Yeah. I just was on set,
Yep.
like got to work on set for
Mhm.
the first time this summer. And because you're right, uh, when you write a screenplay or an episode,
Mhm.
you don't have the control. Like
Right.
you have a few words to get at the
Mhm.
interiority. You have like a camera angle that the director may or may not obey,
Right.
to get at the interiority. And
Mhm.
that all happens on set. And I
Yeah.
thought that was like such a really fun, interesting. Like I get why playwrights do it, even though
Mhm.
there's no glory in publishing, but there's certainly no glory in being a playwright. And because you sit in these meetings and uh um like a props person is like, okay,
Right.
what kind of plate are they eating off of? And I was like,
Right.
what kind of plate? Oh my God, I have like yeah, this is my bread and butter. Like
Right.
I could describe plates for like 15
Mhm.
minutes. And all of that sort of does happen on set. So it's a much more like it's a later process, but
Mhm.
it's much more like yeah, like an active collaborative thing. Um and it's there, it's just different. But I do miss it. Like there's nothing like uh like writing a whole chapter of a book and like being able to be inside these characters. Like that's the psychology that I'm interested in for sure.
I also loved the claustrophobia. And it's not like the whole novel. You have moments though where, and I'm going to stay away from specific, but there are claustrophobic moments um, that I kind of wanted to know how you did it because you shift in tone without losing the overall narrative voice. And you have a moment where you're like, huh, I'm going to put this down for a second. I'm going to go get a snack. I'm going to come back because I need a minute to sort of not feel everything at once kind of thing.
Wait,
And
what
and
are you talking about? I'm curious.
the claustrophobic parts for me were moments where Noah was in the capsule,
Yeah.
right? So there's that piece. But also there were a couple of moments. I never felt it when Maya was in Tokyo, but there were moments for her, like at the opening party,
hmm
that felt claustrophobic because
Yeah.
you knew she just did not want to be there doing that thing, and she's like, "This is my job, fine,
Yeah.
whatever." So there are different levels of claustrophobia,
Yeah.
but I'm watching them trying to figure out how they're going to sort of punch their way out of things. I mean,
Yeah.
not literally, but they're we always know more than they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was invested in them. I didn't know how the book was going to end, which I
Mm.
really appreciate because sometimes you're like, oh, this is great. I sort of see where this is going. And then
Yeah.
you zigged when I thought you were going to zag, and I was very pleased. Um, and then there are also moments, though, like watching Maya try to navigate the art scene in Marfa, which she has no clue about.
Yeah.
Absolutely no clue about. And she's kind of fumbling and it's not going well. And it's just
Yeah.
like that's another form of claustrophobia in a way because she's like, "Wah!
Yeah.
How do I?" But she doesn't have anyone that she can turn to right there in the moment. And then actually, bar scene also, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It just,
Those
all
are
of these
so
little
hard to write.
moments.
They're the
Yeah. Okay.
hardest. They're the hardest.
Okay.
Now that you're saying that, like, yeah, they're because in a way, those moments you describe are like quite cinematic. Like
Hmm.
um they're like screen
Yeah.
scripts in a way because you have to communicate like active things are happening,
Hmm.
conversations, people in a bar, people at this party, time travel, like
Yeah.
the really important moments that have to tip the characters over into what happens next.
Hmm.
There's like scenes in a book that are scenes that describe in a person's emotional state, the
Hmm.
past, the relationship with their mom, but the scenes you're describing are like tipping points that
Yeah.
are those scenes all required so much rewriting,
Hmm.
and they are the hardest for me because you have to do a lot with a little,
Hmm.
like a small amount of space, which is probably like what the claustrophobia
Hmm.
part of it is. And I love those scenes, but I'm not naturally good at them. So I'm glad to hear that they were claustrophobic, I guess. Yeah.
No, you were doing the thing you set out to do, but then you also rewarded me with Ruth Asawa, who's a sculptor that
Oh
I
yeah.
love, and not enough people know about Ruth. So I am totally dragging Ruth into this conversation because I feel like, in a lot of ways, there were so many pieces of this book where I'm like, okay, I want to see who else gets this stuff. But you've sort of followed Ruth's career for a while, and she did have a moment where she sort of fell off of everyone's radar and
Yeah.
sort of it feels a little bit like she was maybe, I don't want to use the word rediscovered, but it does sort of feel like suddenly whoever was managing her estate
Yes. Yeah.
changed.
Yeah. It was something like in the last 10
Yeah.
years. Because there's a big Ruth Asawa retrospective going around the
Yep.
world, maybe, but the right country definitely right now. And I keep missing it. Like I keep being in the place like the day after it closes,
Right,
so I
right,
need to
right.
follow it somewhere. Um, but she's like so fascinating. And for people who don't know, she does these incredible like 3D sculpt, sort of Calder-esque
Yep.
sculptures is one aspect of her work. But what's so interesting also about her is that she was a Bay Area Japanese woman who was a mother who like mothered her children and made art and made
Yeah.
really important big art
Yeah.
and did both, and like
Hmm.
that the great problem of of our modern life is how do we do that?
Hmm.
And when you read about her, I mean, she's really interested in process,
Hmm.
and I think that's the answer for like a lot of artists who are also want to be mothers or are mothers. Like, you've got to find a way to like make your life into the process. And I still haven't figured that out, but I think that's what's so inspiring about her. And what I wanted to use in this book
Hmm.
was like this person that Maya looks up to that like, well, there's a way to like make your art into the like creative your
Hmm.
life into the creative practice. And but she doesn't know how to do it yet, and like hasn't gotten there because there's just so much that she has put away in a box. Um and then uh there's so much great art in Marfa, you know. I love like maybe it makes me a basic woman, but I love those minimalists. I'm sure I would hate them if I met them, but I love them. Donald Judd and Dan Flavin, Eliason, like
Yep.
um and the Robert Irwin piece that's there, the light and space movement, like
Hmm.
all of this stuff. Like I love contemporary art, but I'm
Hmm.
not an expert in it, and I'm
Right.
I'm just a lover of it. And so it was really, really fun to be able to like go see a bunch of art, write about art, research art, like think about how people talk about it, how an artist might talk about it. All that stuff was like really fun to me, but I definitely not, it's not my first language.
I think it's enough though to just love something and have an immediate reaction, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not particularly well versed in art, but there's that Picasso room at LACMA,
Yeah.
and there's a statue called the Cock, and it's this brass rooster, and it's got huge plumage and everything. Have you ever read the note next to it?
No.
It's hysterical. You just it is one of the funniest museum notes I've and it's more about Picasso than it is about the painting, and it's more about Picasso and his tendency to step outside of whatever relationship he's in. And it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, well, someone signed off on that. Someone signed off on that. And it is a very sort of earnest, like it doesn't really feel like there was a piece of scholarship necessarily that went into this note. And I really do want people to go find this note. It
Yeah,
still
I'm
makes
gonna
me
go
laugh.
find
I
it.
actually have a photo of it on my phone. I'll text it to you.
Okay.
But like, why can't we just have those genuine responses, right? There's a
Yeah.
moment where Maya sees, it's not an antelope. Sorry. What is the animal called?
People technically not an antelope, but it's called a
Yeah.
pronghorn. It looks like an
Okay.
antelope.
All right. Looks like an antelope, pronghorn. It's struggling. It has whacked itself on a piece of
Yeah.
art and it is not doing well.
Yeah.
But Maya's response to this moment and this piece of art, like, we don't have to have a technical explanation for everything we see. Like, I see a Helen Frankenthaler and I get really excited
Hmm.
because it's beautiful. Or like you see a Rothko
Yeah.
for real. And then there are other painters where I'm like, oh, you're doing okay. Like, I can't explain how I connect with
Yeah.
some stuff and not other stuff. I mean, like you see a Warhol and you're kind of like, huh, Basquiat, I
Yeah.
still get excited. You know,
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I just there's some stuff I really like, and then there's some stuff that I don't, and I sound kind of like a total amateur whenever I'm talking about it, and I genuinely don't care. I'm just kind of
Well,
like,
I
I don't
think,
know, can't we be an
yeah.
enthusiast for something? You know what I mean? Like, why
Yeah.
can't we just enjoy the thing and
Yeah.
not have to explain how it fits into a larger context?
Well, I think that's like um a lot of people, that's I think what turns people off of fine art is
Yeah.
is like this idea that you have to have
Hmm.
a bunch of context and scholarship, and you really don't. Like, you can walk
Right.
into a museum, and the and what I love about the Donald Judd in
Yeah.
Marfa, these massive concrete boxes that are outside. He also
Yep.
has inside boxes too, but or the Flavin neon
Right.
fluorescent stuff,
Hmm.
is that it gives you, when you see it, you have a visceral experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody does, whether
Mhm.
it's positive or negative or somewhere along that
Yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think that that gives people permission to like have a feeling about
Yeah.
art, a thought about
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can go in, you can look at all the minimalist history, you can look about what was happening in the 60s and how these mainly white men
Mm.
were like responding to it, and thinking about color and like
Right.
nature and the natural form.
Mhm.
And you can think about phenomenology and like postmodernism and all of that stuff,
Right.
or you can just like think look at the way the light hits this thing and
Yeah.
maybe see a pronghorn, like a wild animal walking
Hmm.
around it, which I did see when I was there.
Yeah.
Um, and then that'll make you feel all kinds of
Yeah.
things. And that's like the great permission of art that I wish more people understood. Because like I think art would be like so, so much more popular than it is now.
Light is the thing that always gets my attention.
Yeah.
And it's actually something I talk to booksellers a lot about too. I'm like, look at how the light falls in your store. It's different everywhere. Like we
Mm,
have stores in Montana and we have stores in, upstate New York, like upstate New York kind of thing. And like the light falls differently than it does in sort of the South Central or Southeast or what have you. It's like the light falls differently and it depends on the season and everything else. And I'm like, look at where the windows are. Look at what you can do,
yeah.
and it's not even fancy. It just matters on the time of day. Like
Yeah.
we have a skylight in the office here and every now and again you catch it and you're like, yeah, that's just
Yeah.
beautiful. And it's like 3 o'clock on a Thursday and you're like, okay. But
Yeah.
it's those moments, right, which are so hard to capture, even on screen, because I mean, stuff just, it's like when you look through your camera, right, and you're taking a photo off your phone, and it's
Hmm.
like, oh, that's kind of not what I thought it looked like.
Yeah.
Like the color's different, or something's flatter than you thought it was, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it just missed the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the desert, right? Like California desert, Texas desert, like the desert is exactly the kind of place where the light falls a certain way, or you catch something in Death Valley and you're like, what did I just see?
Yeah. Yeah. I live on a street leads that doesn't lead up to the Hollywood sign, but
Right.
it frames up the Hollywood sign very
Yep.
well. And as I walk up and down the street, there are always people standing in the middle of the street trying to take a picture of the
Right.
Hollywood sign.
Yeah. And you
And
can't do it.
every time I'm like, I feel bad for them. If only they knew. Those photos are not going to look good because you can't, it's hard to get the depth and the way like LA light and
Right.
smog hits the Hollywood sign and it's white, so it's like white against beige and like you can't
Yep.
get it and I think that's what's so cool about photography, like
Hmm.
people who really do it, like how can I best like not represent what I actually see, but like what I
Right.
actually feel when I look at
Right.
something. And I think that's the coolest.
I like the idea too that creativity comes. I mean, you played the cello for what, couple decades, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
since I was 5.
And you have you and my brother have musical talent. I play the radio. Like literally, that's what I can do. Like I don't even sing in the car. But the idea though that can be a form of emotional expression. Like the other night I was
Yeah.
in a car and the driver was playing something on the radio, but it was Bach or Mozart. It was one of those, and like my lizard brain is lighting up, going, "Oh yeah, I remember this." And it was so pleasant. We're driving along the Hudson River, and I'm just like, "Oh, this is delightful." And
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it in forever, but it's that very old school, very formal, probably four-piece ensemble. Like this is not. I'm
Yeah.
not listening to an orchestra do a thing. Like this
Right.
is I don't know, it's coming out of the radio, this dude's car. But it was delightful. It was
Yeah.
so, so great. And the lights are going, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is one of those New York moments. It's like
Yeah.
this is one of those reasons you live in a place like this.
Yeah. It's like people are so, not to say people nowadays are so, but people nowadays are so used to lyrics telling them how to feel. And
Right,
I get that. Like there are books, there's music and songs with lyrics that I love.
right.
But I think that feeling is also like really possible and extremely powerful in music that doesn't
Yeah.
have lyrics. And it's the same with fine art, with visual art.
Hmm.
Um, and it's this like you got to let go a little bit and you have to like trust your own um like what's the word? You have to trust your own sense of the world. Like you have to
Yeah.
trust it. And I think we're so mediated that it's hard. And what I love about Marfa is that there's so little mediation. It's like you
Yeah.
and the world, and like you have to have opinions and feelings, um, and that's kind of like maybe why art is so popular and out there. Um,
It also, I mean, the whole art versus science trope, right?
Hmm.
I mean, it never gets old because there are always a million different ways to look at the same kind of question. And that's kind of the fun of reading you, right? When you're
Hmm.
poking around at creativity, either novel, when you're poking around at creativity or you're poking around at friendship and what that looks like over time, or romantic love or love, like all of these different pieces, right? All of these different moving parts. And you're kind of, raising an eyebrow and bringing us in to all of it, but it's like how much of it is mechanic, right? Like even the ensemble, like there is a little bit of conversation about what is the mechanic
Yeah.
piece of making music, right? And
Yeah.
but then you get drama and then you get conflict and you get all of this stuff happening. So
Yeah.
like I'm totally down with it. But I love the idea that we'll never get kind of tired of saying like, well, you're coming from a purely science.
Yeah.
Like I'm just thinking of all those journalists who were like told to learn how to code when newspapers started folding. And I'm like, it's not the same thing. You got to have both. Like
Yeah.
you need some of the people to really just want to do the things with words and not zeros and ones. All respect
Yeah.
to the people who do the zeros and ones, but the idea that we can get so much sort of drama and universal drama in the
Yeah.
details of like a Maya or a Noah or an Eileen.
Right. Well, there were physicists that I talked to,
Mm-hmm.
um, who were quite rigid in their thinking. And
Oh, okay.
I admire that in them.
Yeah.
But first of all, when you start looking at physics and reading about physics, you
Mm-hmm.
have to learn a language. It took me a long time of feeling really stupid until I was like, oh, I just don't understand this language. I don't
Right.
understand the assumptions underneath these statements, which I
Okay.
should be able to understand, but I don't. So I get that they have grown up speaking a language that I don't speak. So when I
Yeah.
come and try to speak a different language to them, they're they a lot of times will say, but no, that's not true. And I'm like, well, I'm not talking about if it's true. I'm talking about what if it was true.
Right.
And it was really hard to have those conversations. But there were also other scientists and physicists that I talked to who a little bit embarrassingly or secretly or
Yeah.
quietly told me like, well, I like to think about that part too. Like I like to think about
Yeah.
speculation. Like it can't
Right.
come to work with me, but let's think about it here
Mm-hmm.
on the side. And I think that that part of science, like that there are fringe is probably not the right
Mm-hmm.
word, but there are corners of science where that kind of thinking is okay. And that's like much more similar to the creative process
Yeah.
than anything
Yeah. Yeah.
else. It's like taking these pieces and trying to arrange them into a way that will help you discover something else. Maybe something possible.
Or then you discover something like fractals, right? Have
Hmm.
you ever seen photographs of fractals and you're like, wait,
No.
how is that? So they're like multi-sided. I don't even know how to explain them. Like it's not like they're atoms or anything, but I just remember as a kid seeing photos of these tiny weird multi like 100-sided little things and I'm like, how do you even get a photo of
Yeah.
something like that, right? Or like,
Right.
and like it's smaller than snowflakes, all of this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what? I don't
Yeah.
even like it is possible though, right? Or you see like a weird tiny microscopic creature in a photo and you're just like, what is happening? What am
Yeah.
I looking at?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's insanely beautiful and sometimes you're like, ew.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the central idea that I was when I read about it was like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what I can use for the book
Right.
was this idea of I'm so afraid of saying things like on the record because I
Right.
know scientists will come and be like, that's not true. And I'm an amateur and the disclaimer is I will say things incorrectly. Sure, I'm sure of it. But the idea is sort of quantum consciousness.
Okay.
So there's an idea that's widely accepted that consciousness must arise from the mechanical process, the classical processes in our brains. A
Okay.
bunch of neurons firing at once.
Hmm.
We don't really know how that makes consciousness, but we can
Right.
assume that it comes from neurons firing
Hmm.
in a certain way that we cannot replicate with a computer,
Right.
but it's classical and mechanical nonetheless.
Okay, so
Or,
nerd me though, nerd me who has no science background beyond what I had to do through like the 10th grade or whatever, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
what you just said makes perfect sense because it sounds universally human to me. Like, of
okay,
course we have consciousness because neurons fire.
yes,
Like, do I believe in science even though I have a humanities degree? Yes, yes, I do.
yes. Okay,
You
but
know?
the question becomes like, we can replicate what neurons firing is with a
Uh,
computer, but a computer is not conscious. So, like,
yeah.
we just haven't figured it out yet, is what most scientists will say. There's an area of science, though, that says no, consciousness must arise from a
Hmm.
quantum phenomenon in the
Right. Okay.
brain, that our brains are quantum machines, which is not widely accepted because it is like the first thing I said is not really provable at this point, but the
Right.
second thing I said is definitely not provable. Um, and at least not yet. And
Yeah.
I think that was the part where I thought, okay, so if our brains are quantum machines, then what else quantum can our brain do? Like, can it engage in entanglement and coherence in a
Hmm.
way that would enable time travel? And that's kind of where the book took off. But the what it relates to how what you were saying is like the man of science, man of faith
Right.
trope and dichotomy, like it exists like everywhere. And
Yeah.
like and I think it exists in this little corner of physics too.
Yeah.
And one of those areas like just allowed me to like extrapolate out the
Yeah.
situation of this book.
Okay, but telling stories was probably the first human thing we ever did, right? So,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
listening to you talk about this too, I'm like, yeah, actually, I believe the weird thing too. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I just read too much, but I'm like, no, that's totally possible. That's
Yeah.
completely possible. And, obviously, we're having larger conversations about AI right now. I believe AI is only as good as the people who program it. So, y'all can
Sure.
tell yourselves whatever you
Yeah.
want. But, like, if you have to feed it books that are already written,
Yeah.
then guess what? It's not a thing yet. Like
Yeah.
that's just gross. Like
I
that's just
know.
scraping and gross and like you should have thought it through better. Now, that's not to say that I don't believe AI doesn't have a function in some way at
Sure.
some point, but like don't steal people's stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Like just don't steal people's stuff. That's gross. And if you have to, then your business model is not solid.
Yeah.
Just gonna just gonna put that all out there.
Yeah.
But is it possible that we don't know everything about how our brains operate or how time operates or how memory operates? Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't have gyroscopes until we did, right?
Yeah.
And like now we've gone on to do kind of terrible things with very terrible things with gyroscopes. But
Right.
the idea that we didn't have like that kind also I had an uncle who was a rocket scientist, so maybe I think about
Oh,
this more than
wow.
other people, but like and also like aerospace and all like planes stay in the air,
Yeah.
right? Like planes stay in the air. All of these things. And it's like, we don't know what the ultimate potential is, but we do know people.
Yeah.
And when you start with the people, right, like, then we get a cool thing like
Yeah.
Lightbreakers.
Yeah.
And I love the idea that you're blowing up genre, especially having read the ensemble, where I'm like, this is great. I totally get this. I recognize these people too, even though I don't have a musical bone in my body. And then you just blow it up and you're like, guess what? I'm going to do some other stuff now. And I
Yeah.
love I love the idea that genre is a fluid thing where you're like, I need it for story, but is it defining? Not necessarily, because you can't separate genre from people.
Yeah.
Like there is no genre writing without people. Like or character. Okay, fine. Maybe you have some elves. Maybe you have like sentient robots. I don't care, but they're still characters. They're still, I would argue, people. But
Yeah. No,
that's
the
just
genre is this just the scaffolding for
yeah.
me. And um I I didn't sort of think it would be as big of a deal to like work in a different genre, but it
Hmm.
seems I think that's like just sort of not what people expect maybe after you've
Hmm.
published one book that is not in like a sort of more popular genre. So, but I kind of hope to do that like going forward. Like I
I think you
hope
should.
to
I think you
look
should.
at
It's
different genres. Like,
I had so much fun reading the Lightbreakers, and I feel like you had, even though I'd heard some stories from you about like the creation of this book, and a couple times it didn't sound so much fun, but like
yeah,
there's a sense of play. There's a sense of play with these characters, even when you're talking about grief and memory and regret and loss and all of those. But there
yeah,
is a sense of play and possibility in this book
yeah,
that seems very liberating for you as the writer.
Oh my
And
God,
I
so good.
appreciate being able to read that. Even if you're asking me to consider questions that maybe I hadn't considered, or, grief. There's a
Yeah.
reason everyone keeps writing about grief.
Yeah.
So, if someone can teach me how to process grief, I would appreciate that, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's that Bostonian thing, man. It's the factory preset where we don't we don't get the emotional piece down. Like, it's
Uh,
okay, whatever. But watching these characters figure it out, and watching them decide to do what they do is it's pretty excellent. Have you started the next thing? I mean, that is sort of conventional wisdom, right? Like, you start the new thing before the current thing is in the world.
yeah. Well, I work in screenwriting too, so that I have several next things in
Okay.
that arena, but I also have like a document that is like, I forget what it's called. I think it might just say next novel or something. But that has like these character names and some ideas.
Uh-huh.
And I keep thinking about it. And I think what's so helpful is when people ask on these book tours, and then the idea kind of like, but the more you say it, the more you realize what
Hmm.
you're interested in. And so for me, it's like a something that exists maybe in like a lighter arena,
Okay.
less grief, more like fun backstabby. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah.
I'm in. I'm
Okay.
totally in. All right, we literally have covered the cosmos and time travel and
Yeah,
all
we
of the
figured
big
it out.
emotions. So, now that we've solved the problems of the world, no, more importantly, Asia, it was awesome to see you. I'm so happy we got to do this. The
Yeah.
Lightbreakers is out now, and you know what? Just go pick up the Ensemble too if you haven't yet.
Oh
Thanks.
yeah.
Right? Thanks for
Yeah.
doing this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Poured Over is a Barnes & Noble production. To help other readers find us, please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.